Hi, this is John coming to you from Southern Oregon, and today I want to demonstrate how I use the ES1 synthesizer in Logic Pro 10 to emulate the sound of a small orchestra's bass section using modulation techniques we learned in week 6. To begin with, we have to think about how to play the bass with a bow and how this is represented in the configuration of various modulation parameters in the synthesizer to recreate the power and rich timbre of a contrabass. I think getting this sound right will be a pretty big challenge. I have my track playing in the background for you to listen to. The first thing we have to think about is forming the notes with the fingers of our left hand on the fingerboard. This may be the easiest part because all we have to do is strike a key on our MIDI controller keyboard. In the synthesizer used in the lesson videos, Loudon switched on the note with a button, and the frequency was generated by an oscillator. The frequency was set by typing a number into the frequency box and hitting the return key. In my demonstration, I modulate the frequency generated by the oscillator using my MIDI controller keyboard. So the first level of modulation is from the musician, me, to the keyboard, which controls the frequency generated by the oscillator. And if we switch on the ES1 here, the main oscillator is on the top left-hand side and a sub-oscillator on the bottom. The second major point of modulation is the amplifier envelope. The amplifier envelope is controlled in the lower right-hand side. Think about drawing the bow over a string to generate sound. First, the string is stationary, and as I apply pressure, the string pulls back and then breaks free and starts to vibrate. A music student might spend many years trying to get decent at this simple act. The first break of vibration is likely to be bigger than subsequent vibrations and is represented in the amplifier envelope as the attack point. Next, the first surge of sound diminishes or decays to a steady sustained tone until the bow stops or the note is released. After years of practice in bowing, I think the correct amplifier envelope to recreate this sound would be a short attack followed by a short decay to a high sustained tone and a short release. Of course, this envelope could be adjusted depending on what kind of music is being played or effect desired. The next point of modulation is the low-frequency oscillator. In ES1, the low-frequency oscillator is found in the lower left-hand section, as you can see here. On the bass, vibrato is created by using the wrist and finger rolling back and forth as the string is held to the fingerboard. In the synthesizer, I try to recreate the vibrato effect using the low-frequency oscillator to modulate pitch. Vibrato on the bass is generally slow, so I set the frequency at about 3 Hz. And you can see the rate is set here. I've also found that I can get an even better effect using the LFO to modulate resonance in the filter as well. In this case, the low-pass filter cutoff is set here. The low-pass filter cutoff frequency is set low, and resonance relatively high, and resonance is set here to fill out the harmonic spectrum with a kind of low, slow pulse. So there you have it. If I close my eyes and listen, can I imagine a row of basses bowing in unison to create a background wall of modulation? It might not quite be there yet, but one problem I have here is there's a knock on each beat that I can't quite figure out how to get rid of. I think it's caused by hitting the MIDI keyboard a little bit too hard. But if you have any recommendations on how to get rid of this, let me know. So just to review, what I've tried to do here is first I used the MIDI keyboard to modulate frequencies generated by the oscillator to create notes. Second, I use the amplifier's ADSR envelope to recreate the effect of drawing a bow over the strings on a bass. Next, I use the low-frequency oscillator to modulate pitch in the oscillator in a low-frequency cycle to create vibrato. Finally, I use the LFO to modulate resonance in the filter to add a harmonic pulse to the overall tone. I need to keep working on this to get the sound right, but thanks a lot for listening, and I hope to work with all of you again in follow-up courses. Thanks very much.